Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. We're sharing and learning from one another. It's a vibe. ReadswithRosa podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educator spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, taking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Making strides, monumental. And rock with me and get down to this new jam. With my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's the grand slam. I'm out. Talo Falava, kia ora, and welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. I'm really excited to introduce today's guest. She is a singer, songwriter, actress, accomplished playwright and director, a gifted storyteller, a powerhouse performer, born and bred in Wellington, Aotearoa. Welcome to the show, Moana Ete. Sis, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm so good. My little boy's a little unwell, and so that always kind of throws everything up in the air. But he's 4 now. I've been a mum for 4 years now. You just roll with the punches, and love every moment.
Man, and in terms of the COVID situation, obviously Auckland, and Auckland is a bit crazy up there, but what's it like down where you guys are in Wellington? I mean, are you able to get out and do things?
Yeah, but it's like it's a lot of, it's like the mask and the hygiene and the code scanning in, so a lot of that stuff's coming up, and then conversations around vaccines and vaccine like passports and things, that's kind of rolling into effect very soon. And so, I mean, I don't know, that's always going to be another dynamic and another, like, it's one thing to set the rules and then another to enforce it, even within your own family, right? Because not everyone's always agreed. But it's doable. I mean, shows are a bit live shows, like with music and like theater, that's kind of changed, but people are still doing the things, It's cool. You kind of create other ways, or you sort of shift how you make live performance, which is something that I'm really interested in anyway. So
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess first thing is, can you share a little bit about your cultural roots, a little bit about your background? Obviously, the industry stuff and things like that, I've kind of put it out there, but who is Moana Ete?
Yeah, I think I'm an artist. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I tell story through stage and screen, and also through music. After that, I'm a mother. I have a 4-year-old son, and I have nieces and nephews who I just adore fiercely, just as much as I do my son, if I'm truly honest with myself, which doesn't threaten me at all, To me, my best friend's kids are mine too, and my siblings' kids are mine too. And then after that, I'm Samoan Māori. I whakapapa tangaitahu. I know my maunga, I know my moana, I know my marae, and I know my people. So that's my privilege. And then I also know that I whakapapa to Sava'i Samoa, Whalea Lupo and Alomalawa there. I have my language. After being Samoan and Māori, I am kind of a receiver of the world around me. Hyper perceptive, love to just notice little things, super observant, and just open up my mind and heart to receive a lot, and then process and hold on to and create meaning. And then after that, I guess I'm a consumer. I'm a part of this economy. I am a citizen. I am a New Zealander, and I watch Netflix, and I listen to Spotify, and I watch stuff on YouTube, and I read books, you know? I consume, consume, consume.
Mm.
So, I didn't know I was gonna roll that out that way, but, yeah. First, I'm a creator, and, I make things, and then at the bottom, I'm a consumer, you know? But they're all, valid and all parts of me that I can accept. Yeah.
When you think back to your younger self, back when you were coming through primary or even through high school, like obviously you've mentioned reading. Was reading something that you were always interested in? What were you interested in when you were going through school? Did you kind of always know that there was something there about music, to do with music or the arts or, you know?
Yeah, I was a buzzy kid, eh? I was like a bit of a weirdo, like, not I mean, I say that being like I feel like being like not to like blow my own horn, but like I was a bit of a weirdo back in the day, you know? I look back on that time as like I can be proud of the fact that I was weird.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it had something to do with like being a Afukasi,
Mhm.
you know, but it was never a struggle, you know. I don't ever want to paint that as a struggle. It was just like it was more like a shape shifting thing as
Right.
opposed to like an identity crisis. Only because like I look like what I am, you
Right.
know. I understand people struggle when they don't look like
Yeah.
what what they are on the inside. But for me, my privilege is that I actually look it, you know? And if people were to guess what I was, they'd guess either Samoan or Māori, you
Right.
know? And so in that sense, I could shapeshift. But I was just a bit weird in both contexts. Because it was like I was brought up in Whakasa. That was everything when I was little, like literally born into the church. And my grandfather was the Whaiwhi Awa,
Right.
um, e Whakasa, Newtown, Wellington. And so my mama and papa was everyone's mama and papa, you
Right.
know, and they were everyone's spiritual parents. And so we were all kind of, um, yeah, it was really like a village. And so I'm really grateful to have had that
Mm.
upbringing, to have so many aunts and uncles and so many cousins and so many friends. And I was thinking about it, I was like quintessential, like, moipi, like, just like, it was like a really safe space to be,
Right.
like you'd, like, save up your coins and go back, buy a lip gloss from the $2 shop, and then, like, wear my sparkly, like, lip gloss and then, like, put it on my eyes and stuff, like, I was so that little girl who just, like I feel
Mm.
like it's a really safe space to, like, explore your femininity,
Right.
because even though there are boys there and stuff, like, their mums are watching us, you know, and our dads are watching us, and, like, there might be a little, like, "Oh, so and so likes you." You're like, "Ah, ha, ha, ha," but it's, like, it's so safe, you
Right.
know, and they're never gonna do anything, and we're never gonna do anything, so, um, at the time, it was so like, maybe when I was a bit younger, I would have thought that was so cringe, but now as a mum,
Mm.
now that I have a little boy, I understand that it's, like, so normal
Right.
and so natural to just explore your masculinity or your femininity in whatever way, and that you
Mm.
don't really have to judge it, you know? But, yeah, super weird kid. Um, and I was always talking to myself or, like, if I was watching TV, like, copying the television or, like, copying accents or watching Ghostbusters and then being like, "Okay, well, now I have to be a Ghostbuster." Um, that mirroring, uh, was always, like, something that I just did naturally, and had a lot of fun and joy doing, you know?
Right.
Yeah. But, of course, that comes with judgment. Like, it
Mm.
did come with, like, a level of judgment, um, but I don't know, something in my spirit just didn't care, eh? Like, I was just like, something about my spirit just wanted it was like a free spirit, you know? Like, and to this day, I still am. Um, but I believe that we all should be, that every child should have the opportunity to be, you know?
Mm. Who were some of your role models, growing up?
Yeah. Well, in 1995 or 1996, the Spice Girls came out with their single "Wannabe." Oh, and just, like, that video clip when it came out, and they all rolled up and they all, like, rolled out of this, like, limousine, and, like, what really captured my imagination was, like, they had no interest in being, like, good girls.
Right.
They had no interest in being, like, quiet or well-behaved, and up until that point, that's kind of what my parents and my grandparents had kinda wanted of me, like, be quiet, uskai,
Mm.
fa'aloalo, but I was like, "That's it, like, that's what my heart wants."
Right.
I wanna, like, run through, like, the hallways and, like, dance on tables and wear platform shoes. And so, yeah, I think for me, that rebellion was really sparked in me through the Spice Girls of all groups. Because for the first time I could see that being a girl was fun and being a woman was fun.
Mm.
Um, and because a lot of the people who were around me at the time, you know, we were in service of our families and of the men in our lives. Not to say that that was wrong and far out, like, not to ever, um, you know, disassociate or not want to be a part of that or think that it's wrong because it's not. I see the strength in my grandma, my aunties who are whare and my mum who's like, you know, I know that that's a. All I'm saying is that I knew my calling was not that.
Mm.
And so to see that example, I was like, "Oh, that's my calling."
Right.
And not yeah, and I haven't yeah, I just
Which Spice Girl did you want to be? Sweet Spice or
you
Baby
know
Spice?
you know, I think it's changed throughout the years. Um, I don't know, I had a real affinity with, Ginger Spice.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's her, right?
Yeah, because she was real outspoken, and she was like they went to visit the royals, and I saw this video of her for just, like, taking the piss out of, like, Prince Charles, and I was like, "She's she's she knows."
It's funny. I was just thinking now when you're talking, I was like, were you one of those kids in White Sunday? Were you one of those real, like, confident, um,
Oh,
on the mic? As you're talking, I'm like, I wonder what White Sunday was like. Were you super active in terms of like the plays and you know, were you shy? You couldn't have been shy, right? No, you were up there
well,
confident, knew all your
yeah,
lines.
yeah, um, I would just do it because I had to do it.
Right.
I can't say that I particularly loved White Sunday, but I loved the idea that, everyone just did it because they had to do it. And, yeah, I think it was like if it was like Fatmatala lines, those I found those really hard
Yeah.
because sometimes they're quite lengthy. But, yeah, I definitely would say that, like, a speaking role or, like, if you had to play a character, that was, like, much easier. Um,
Funny, man. That is hilarious.
yeah, I think the thing about Newtown FX is, like, it's, like, rarely ever, like, a superstar. We're all just kind of, like, we're all just sort of at a similar level, and
Right.
if it's hard out, everyone's hard out. Um, and the prize went to the person who cried. Did you cry?
Oh, not the emotional parts.
You're
Oh,
like you're like, "You got it. You got it." They got the Oscar that year.
man, White Sunday when I hated, like, I hated any of that, like,
It's
acting, getting
scary.
parts, and I just remember I was always the crier, like, I was just so
Oh,
useless like that, like, I couldn't hold a
you got
part
the
or
Oscar.
I couldn't sing. I didn't know about Oscar. I would say I probably got a hiding after, but
Oh.
but, like, I remember I think they just stopped giving me solo parts singing because I just would get so super caught up in the song and then cry, like,
Yeah,
just for as long as I can remember. So,
yeah.
White Sunday is just scars.
Yes. Yeah, that's totally understandable. Yeah. Oh, oh,
Yeah.
Kalofai.
Yeah, Kalofai. So I want to talk about Smoke Free Rock Quest. Man, I found this gem, I found this gem, this video of you and uh damn, was it 2009? No. No, maybe 2009 you were being interviewed by I think it was Tangata Pacifica at the time. I,
Oh, yo.
I found this gem, man, and it was you super young interviewing about making it
Oh,
smoke
yo.
free rock quest, the joys
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
internet, the joys
Yeah.
of YouTube, actually.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, you were saying like you didn't even think that you would make it that far. Tell us, I don't know what
Oh,
you
no.
remember of that experience, because when we talk about Pacifica beats, we're thinking, okay, reggae, generally reggae, some hip hop in there. But this is Smoke Free Rock Quest, man. We're talking bands, metal,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
a Maori Samoan girl rocks up. Tell us.
Yeah, that was so long ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. But
Mm,
I don't know why. I think I tried out for Pacifica Beats
mm,
actually. It I did I did actually like enter the regionals or something, but I just
mm,
didn't make it, even
mm.
past the first round.
Wow.
Um and I remember um yeah, and then the only other option was like, oh, maybe I should try Rock Quest. What was the feedback from Pacifica Beats? I think it was like they weren't really taking girls on guitars because it was just me on my guitar.
Wow. Okay.
And I think they were looking at like bands
Mm, mm,
and maybe I don't have any like real or like
right.
Samoan themes in them or even genre wise I didn't.
Mm,
So I mean fair enough, eh? But then stepping into the rock quest world, it is a little bit open. They were used to they had like Kimbara on and like
wow.
they had
Mm,
like Anika Moa. They
mm,
had like a like room for solo female artists. So yeah, it was no yeah, I got through regionals, came maybe second, and then like nationals came third. Like they were really interested in the storytelling
mm,
and the structure of a song and yeah, I think genre wise they were more open. I think rock's a little
mm,
bit more open, if that makes
mm.
sense. But yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, it was like rock bands,
Yeah, can
but they
imagine.
already had room for solo artists
Mm,
and even brown solo artists. If Anika Moore was there, Brooke Fraser,
mm.
you know,
Wow.
yeah,
You went on to study at Toi Whakaari, New Zealand Drama School. In terms of your experience there and in your studies, like how were you able to, I guess, explore your identity, even your culture in terms of, through that experience? Was there plenty of space for that uh, to happen, or was it more a self-discovery kind of journey through the drama school?
yeah. I mean, you're going into those spaces like 18, you
Mm,
know, you don't even know who you are.
mm,
Like, you go in like completely like you're a kid, really. And none of us had my whole class was young. And so
mm,
when I started Toi Whakaari, they were going it was like when it was like the second year that they started accepting people under 21.
mm,
And so the class before us, they had some young people, but our class, everyone was young. We
mm,
had like a 26-year-old in our class, and we were like,
mm.
"Oh my gosh, she's so amazing. She knows everything about life." She was like our kaumatua. She's only 26.
Mm,
Jeez. Um, but yeah, I would say it's like self-discovery, but you kind of need to like be a little bit older to even have something to work with.
mm,
Um, and so thinking back on that time, I always wonder what would have been like if I just started like a little bit later when I had some life experience, because you go and you're so impressionable and people are telling things about you, things about yourself that, in retrospect, so inappropriate to tell a
Right.
young person. But it was a different school back then, and it changes, under new leadership just like all institutions really. And they did have, so you're in the study of your own emotions, right? Because that's going to be your tools as an actor going forward when you leave. And so it's super confronting and it's a lot. And everyone's got a different process. Some people, if they're given a situation, they might like to really go there and use something from their own experience to tap in. Whereas others were like, no, just tell me, might like to go outside in. So costume might help them, or their posture, or they can really build it from the outside. And others, it's inside. And so that's what we're all testing. And failure in drama school, something that I take from it that was so positive, is shifting the mindset that failure is good. And that in order to, it's not about getting it right. It's about getting up and doing it again and again and again and again and again. And so that tenacity and that grit is the thing that's rewarded and is the thing that is going to get you through. And so, yeah, I saw a meme recently that was don't kill the cringe. Oh, don't kill the part of you that is cringe. Kill the part of you that cringes.
Okay.
So it's kind of yeah, that kind of reminded me of that feeling, that energy is just to keep trying, get up again, go until you get progress.
So, upon finishing school, drama school, are they preparing you to go out into the industry, and are they putting you in placements? Are they putting you into shows? Or is it really, was it a time where you were just kind of okay, I'm just going to venture out and hopefully something will fall into my lap? Do you know, what at that time when you were coming through, what was that process like?
Yeah. I mean, whether they're preparing you for the outside world is not really, because I don't think when you're whoever's teaching in the institution is necessarily aware of what's happening outside. And so that's what because I graduated in 2010, 11 years ago now. And I think having had that distance from the institution, I can see how they hadn't, ways in which they weren't aware of what was actually happening in the world at the time, or in the industry at the time. So I graduated thinking that I wasn't employable,
Right.
because I was a bad student. I was late, and I was things not to do with talent, but logistics, because you're a little shit, because you're only young and you've never really worked, you've gone straight from high school into this new thing. And so I was lazy, and I'd answer back. And so because I didn't do well in the institution, I thought I didn't have a chance in the industry. And so I didn't throw myself at work thinking that oh, my experience and I wasn't good there. But what I value now and what I actually take from that learning is that thing of getting up and going and going and going and going. If there was one thing, that I learned at that place, I think they're way better connected now. I think because at the time when you were in, it was full time. It was 3 years. You really couldn't do anything else. You can't work. You can't. It's all student loan, or your family, or working ridiculous hours doing, and then coming back exhausted the next morning. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to try to learn as a young person. But yeah.
Can you tell us about the performing arts community, or Pacifica or Maori performing arts community in Wellington? What is that like? Is there a collective? I mean, I'm assuming, you know, What is that
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, it's here in Wellington, I feel like it's thriving and it's really exciting and it's beautiful and we're kind of very connected here in Wellington. We all kind of know each other and we all support each other in that way. Like you just can't afford for it to be any other way.
Mm,
You really can't afford to be saying whack stuff about other people. It's like we just have to support and uplift. And it does kind of span across dance, film, theater, maybe, yeah, visual arts, of course. But visual arts, we're trying to like forge relationships with. There's no like official group,
right.
but there are like leaders of groups. So here in Wellington, we have Tupelualua and her crew with
Mm,
Le Moana, and they have Measina Festival, and it's just like they're awesome. And then we've got these young guys who are at Toy right now. They've got
mm,
their little collective, and they have like a podcast, and
mm,
they're making work together, and so many people making online content. To me, it's exciting. It's thriving. It's we're finding our own ways of working and our own ways of funding stuff and getting the support that we need. So yeah, when I think about Moana Pacific Arts in Wellington, I'm like it's like super exciting and um busy. It feels like busy
mm.
and a lot of noise. And then when we connect with Auckland, it's like, yay.
That was my next question. Do you
Yeah.
connect with, say, Auckland or I know Christchurch, if other parts of other hubs around New Zealand?
Yeah. I mean, the hope is, and
Mm,
the intention and the hope is there. The reality, I hope, is not too far off.
right.
But yeah, certainly in Christchurch too, like they've got amazing stuff going on down there.
Mm,
And in Auckland too. So being super inspired. And that's what I love about like social media and all that sort of stuff. Like you can
mm,
see it. There's
yeah.
an opportunity to see people's things with whatever they post. And yeah, I think it's like I get asked to do like artist talks and stuff. And it's like
Mm,
I feel like I'm only half of it because we have like producers, and like we have people who like it's a whole team. And actually, you're just like one part of like a big thing. Like it's not so much a focus on one person, even though it might seem like that. Um, like the leaders of it are just we're just the face of like the actual team that do a lot of
we're
the
behind.
yeah, yeah.
Did you ever at one point want to take on the world outside of New Zealand and just be like, you know what, I'm going to Hollywood? I mean, did you ever go through something like a phase like that where you're like, that's it, I'm going?
You know what? To be completely honest, it's only come about like this year. That feeling, that urge, and that possibility. It's only been a very recent thing.
Oh,
And it has to do with like the world is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. Avatar's just being shot across the road. You know,
yeah,
like we do have a little Hollywood just here, if
right.
that makes sense.
Yes,
Wellywood, you know?
yeah.
Um, and people are bringing their productions here. And so when you're watching Netflix, you're like, that guy looks Tongan because he is Tongan. He's from West Auckland, actually, And um,
I know
so
who you're talking about.
you know what I mean? Like,
Small world. Got you.
yes,
Got you.
yes. So because I'm seeing more of that, I'm like, wow, it's happening. Like the movement that's happening, it's coming here. And when it comes here, I want to be ready for that. Um, and I think, yeah, it's incredible how that works. But I actually believe it now. But that's the vibe, I think. Like you got to be ready when they come knocking and they're like, "What do you want to make?" I want to be like, "Here, bam, script."
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait for when that happens. We're going to be watching. We are all
Ah,
going to be watching. You're going to have some
yes.
new fans after this episode drops. I trust
Yes, let's go.
me. When we think about creativity and this, the quality of storytelling,
Mm,
is there a show that you can think of where you've kind of looked at it and thought, man, that storytelling right there was just mind blowing, top notch. Like,
yeah.
is there one that kind of stands out in your mind? right now, or
Yeah,
perhaps from the past that you've seen, like?
yeah. So many, so many. So there's Michaela Cole, who had a series um, that I subscribed to for a week to get the free membership.
I'm
I
laughing.
may destroy
I
you.
know, I know.
I may destroy you was what it was called.
Mm,
Her thing. There's also Fleabag.
mm.
Just like female protagonists, just like doing whatever they want. And there's also Issa Rae, who has her.
Yes.
Her, just woman, just like no, like nothing's in their way. Like they have no fear and they just tell every single part of it.
Mm,
I don't know if I'll be that straight up, to be honest, but like there are things about that freedom and that bravery and that honesty that is just like we need more of this, especially
mm,
from women of color. Um, just to show the other side, just to show another side.
mm,
Um, there's been a lot of conversations and like yeah, right now, and like story sovereignty
mm,
in our industry, and like who has the right to tell what story and with what agenda.
mm,
And yeah, I think my driving force is like just to make sure that we as Moana Pacific Indigenous people, that we're just aware, right?
mm.
Um, so like, when yeah, just to check who the producers are
Right,
and kind of be aware of who it's slanted towards.
right.
Um,
Which narratives, who is putting the narrative out there?
yeah,
You know, sometimes we see these posters and go, ooh, and then you do a bit of research. I do, and I'm like, wait a minute.
yeah. Well, it's valid, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's totally valid because producers also decide who sees it, right?
Mm,
And then if that audience isn't necessarily Māori Pacific, that leaves
mm,
that just leaves Pākehā, And so we're seeing a version of ourselves that wasn't intended for us,
right,
and um, whether that image is dirtied or whether it's purified.
right.
Yeah, and it's about that authenticity, right?
Right.
It's like going to a restaurant, like a Japanese restaurant, but it's all cooked by like Samoans or something. You're like, is this actually a Japanese restaurant, guys?
I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
You know, when we think about the spirit of storytelling, right? Is there a Maori or Pacifica show that you've seen that has really kind of like moved and inspired you? You know, the storytelling, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say Sis, that series, that comedy series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like in terms of showing us as we are,
Right.
as crack up
Yes.
women, and like I think it's fair, like it's all fair,
Right.
and in that sense, it excites me. Um, hearing, yeah, and I just also love that they did it.
Yeah.
And that they made that space and like they kind of cleared the way for themselves and were like, okay, cool, let's take up this space and
Right.
never apologize for it. And I just think it was um, just strong female character leads.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Taika stuff is always so like
Mm,
um, it's amazing to see that his humor and his timing and his how it's transferable into Marvel,
mm.
how like it can actually exist there and thrive there too, and that the world thinks it's as funny as we find it.
Right.
Um, where is it going? Yeah, yeah. I think all I love it all.
Mm,
Coconut. fresh. Like, it, I'm just inspired that it's there, and it's always like been a resource, and like knowing people who like work and produce and direct for it, that
Right.
there is the intention is pure, the intention is in the right place, you know, and then it's just like finding different ways to like reach their new generation, and
Mm.
has to shift, and it's has to evolve, and they're all working really hard to make that happen.
I want to shift a little bit
Yep,
and talk
sure.
about music. I want to talk about, because you're also a musician, you're, singer-songwriter. Um, what has the journey been like for you as a musician in the New Zealand music industry? Like, are you more like indie artist? What has that space been like? Is it welcoming? Is it, is it labeled for only a few people? You know,
Yeah. At this time in space, it has been quite lonely.
mm,
Not difficult, but lonely. And like a quiet place for me. And at times just like, but that's me. Like I chose to take that time, and I chose to
right,
kind of close myself off. Um, Prior to this time when I made Ocean Bed, that album that I released earlier this year in April, prior to that, I had been with a label,
right,
and that relationship wasn't working out. And so that had to end. Um, and it was just because like it got to a point where I didn't feel safe to share my new music.
mm,
It got to a point where it was obvious that their intentions were like misplaced, and it was obvious that they had bigger artists to organize and propel,
mm,
which is still happening. And I think when that happened and I stepped away from that label, like it went real quiet.
mm,
Like all my friends that I thought were my friends in that circle, like not to say that I wanted to hear from them, but I think like it was just a hard time, and we're going in and out of lockdown. Shows are uncertain. They need to keep working, so they're going to be like a bit narrow-minded or narrow-visioned or put the blinders up.
mm,
And and I think at that moment, just before I decided to actually commit to making an album, I was like, "Sis, this is us. It's just me and you. It's like
We-
me and you in this quiet room. Let's see what we can make." And actually, it was a huge blessing. It was the way it always should have been, you know?
mm.
It should have just been me and my feels.
I
Um,
you're,
because
you can be all in your feels. Nothing wrong.
yeah. Yeah, it was always how it was supposed to be.
Mm,
Because sometimes if you've got studio time, you've got like an engineer waiting for you to come up with lyrics, and then you've got like people you got to run it past, and musicians you got to convince to like play. I really I think being around a lot of big musicians and like session
mm,
musicians and being in that environment, I feel completely out of my depth.
mm,
Like I don't, because I didn't go to music school, and
right,
I was rubbish at music in high school. Like the theory, like I understand, you know, when people, not to say it's the same thing, but I feel people when they say that they're dyslexic and
right.
that how the, like the page and the words move and stuff. Like I feel exactly the same way about music and music notes. Like
Mm,
it's just like they all kind of like go everywhere, and then like you know, it's not nothing sticks even though you like repeat, repeat, repeat. It doesn't quite stick. And how that manifested all these years, it's still like I don't know what like the names of chords are. I don't know like how to express that to another musician. Um, and so yeah, again, it should have just been me and by myself in a room. And I play guitar and I play piano, but I don't know what the chords are. I don't know what key it's in. I don't, like it's just all feel and all like um, it's time. It's actually the time. Like
mm.
it's storytelling. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. It's all just storytelling.
You know, um, I actually, that's how I discovered you. Like, back in April, I was watching Sina, your sister, watching Sina's story, and then she posted your album. It was the build up to your album dropping. I think it was a few days before it dropped. And then I was like, hey, I had kind of seen, like I had seen some stuff on Cook, and I knew who you were, and I had kind of heard some things, had seen some of the shows and like advertised. And then I was just like, hey, is she a musician? So then then it dropped, and I went and listened to it. Like I just listened to it straight through. I was blown away. And you know what really kind of, man, I thought you are so kick-ass, because this is what got me super pumped is when I read this. I've taken some bits off your IG.
Oh, okay, let's go. Let's go.
And it got me so hyped and pumped. I was like, that's it. I'm listening to this album. I'm going to go check it out. But you basically said something like this. And it was what got me inspired just quickly was because I had just started this podcast on April 1st, but your album dropped April 23rd. So starting this podcast and stuff was just kind of like real, you know, I was part of something that kind of it just went sour. And then over the weekend, like the span of 3 days, I was like, that's it. I'm just going to do it. You know, people would be saying, just go for it. Then a few weeks later, I was kind of like still nervous about, you know, we had dropped like 2-3 episodes already. Then I could finally find out who you are. And I read this. You have a picture of ocean bed on your post, and you say, I made it all myself at home. No rules, no money, no label, no second opinion, no anything. I produced and recorded and mixed it all. Again, to reiterate, exactly one person worked on this. Me. I fully eyeballed things like compression ratios and EQs. And no, I didn't pitch correct, not because I am a purist, but because I actually don't know what key any of my songs are in, and YouTube couldn't tell me. Now,
oh my gosh.
Please excuse me because I'm not an actress, but the way I'm reading it is how I was reading it off IG. That was like, I was like, I imagine her. This is how she's saying it. And honestly, sis, I'm was
so dramatic.
Inspired. I was like, this is kick-ass, man. This is so inspirational. She's just out there, just who cares? And I remember telling my friend who does the editing for this, and I was like, oh my God, you gotta check out Sina's sister. Check out read this post where I was like, inspirational. Don't care, just putting it out there. Sorry, didn't mean to go off on my tangent and story there. But yeah, inspirational. And ever since then, I've just been like, yo, I love it. I love what you're doing. Stop making this about me. Describe yourself.
Oh, thank you. I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm so dramatic with my posts. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so happy. I got so much love from that post. It was like, I hardly ever do it. So when when you put your heart out there and then it like people come back and be like, I identify, I know this feeling. I'm like, yeah, we all know this feeling. We all know this feeling of like, we think it needs to go through other people, you know? Like we have that feeling of like, but someone needs to give me permission. And actually one of the books that I have suggested, it talks about this, like this permission slip that we're waiting for someone to write for us so that we can do what we want to do, you know? But it's also that thing of like, you know, like who told you could do that? And then you can be like, well, I actually got a permission slip. So, but I think that's our answer to that, you know, because we already have that voice in our head telling us that. Who are you? Who are you to do this? And that the secret is like, oh, I can actually write my own permission slip.
Right.
I can actually do it. So, yeah. Again, and I was just fed up, like, it's, I'm happy that people, so many people that resonated with them.
Love it.
We've got to write that permission slip, guys.
You know, when you think about that, the whole process, the creative process, from start to finish, I mean, how long did it take you to write the music? Are they songs that were kind of like already sitting there, perhaps unfinished? Or was it kind of like a space where you're like, okay, this is it. From this day to this day, I'm just gonna sit. I'm in my feels. I'm just gonna write. What was that creative process like for you?
Yeah, I mean, so there's 8 songs on the album,
Right.
and maybe like 4 of them I had already written that, I had the structure, I just hadn't recorded them. So I hadn't had to spend that time to actually like sit down and record to get it to a place that I was happy with. And then the other 4 was kind of like I was a response to the first 4, like but I had two months where I had I I I didn't have work. I didn't have to like take up work in those 2 months.
Mm.
And yeah, so that was me. It was like okay, you've got these 2 months, you can like plan a little like getaway or like a holiday, you want to go somewhere or something. But I was like, oh, it was like a working holiday, a working staycation. And yeah, I think the 2 months was of the recording and mixing and getting it all up. And then it was April. Then I was like, we're doing this. We're doing this.
That
And
is cool.
yeah, and it was all worth it. And I learned a lot and I want to do it again.
Yes.
I want to do it again. Yeah. But yeah, it's just it's a battle. It's like a battle with yourself. You go
Mm.
to war with yourself, and to come out the end with something is really awesome. But I think the sad like kind of feedback from that post was like, oh man, I have so many songs I haven't showed anyone, you
Right.
know? I have so many plays I just wrote, I didn't even do anything with it. Or like I wrote so much, I've got all these files on my computer, and I'm like, it breaks my heart. It makes me so sad. Why does it make me so sad? It's just that like it feels like oppression, or like it feels very uncomfortable
Mm.
to be in a space of like not wanting to, or not feeling that they can share, or that it's like fali or
Mm.
whakahihi.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, a girl named Mo. How is that different to, you know, how like when you were a part of that, like how different was that to this Ocean Bed project? Because you guys put an album out, right? Um, you're part of that, and then like how have you grown? I guess what areas have you seen in terms of growth? Like where has the growth been?
Yeah. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Ocean Bed that you're referring to was my stage. Oh, sorry. Did I say
Say
sorry,
it.
I'll say it again. So in 2016, A Girl Named Mo was my stage name, and I
Yes.
was in a band with 2 guys. And one of the guys that I was in a band with, Slade, he produced like half of the album. We made an album together called Platonic Romantic.
Mm,
He produced half of the beats, and I wrote over those beats, and then I produced half of the beats, and I wrote my own songs through that. And then
mm,
we created live shows. It was awesome. Um, I vibed that album, Platonic Romantic. I love every single song on that album, and I'm really proud of what we achieved together as a group. Life happened. I had a baby. Another
mm.
guy got married. Another guy, Marcus, got a real job, like a proper job,
A real
like an
job.
actual.
Right.
He got like a what do you call it? Like a salary
Right.
with leave. No, all these words that I don't know what they mean. But he yeah, we just life happened, and so naturally we all sort of drifted apart. Um, I became part of Fly My Pretties. That was kind of the thing,
Yes.
kind
We're
of
gonna talk
for
about that.
me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was the progression from A Girl Named Mo, and then I made that album with them. Went into Fly My Pretties, learned a whole bunch.
Right.
That was probably me at my most anxious and my most like out of my depth.
Mm,
Um, I was on an album that they made called String Theory, so I was invited on to write some songs for that tour and then a song for the album. And the song that I made with them, was Mud and Stardust, which kind of took off. It kind of went viral.
Mm.
And like beyond that, yeah, and it became like what I was becoming known for, and I don't know if I was like entirely comfortable with that.
Mm.
Some people can play the same song forever and ever and ever, but I
Mm.
don't know. I mean, I still play it to this day. Like at my gigs, I always play Modern Stardust, and I love the feeling of like people singing that back to you. You know, it's such a great feeling. Um, but yeah, I think having been a part of the group, um, yeah, and stepping away from that this year and last year, and doing my own thing as Mo.Etc.
Mm.
Yeah, I've learned. Oh, but the question was, what's the difference? And I think the difference is I'm just kind of embracing like my own femininity. And it's like, you know what we are talking about before with like story sovereignty. So
Right.
like if you want if you want if you want truly Māori Moana Pacific stories, the whole thing has to be built
Right.
by and for and with.
Yes.
And then I think with Mo.Etc, I just hit up a whole bunch of like woman musicians that I knew. I was like, hey, I want to tell stories about being a woman. Are you in? And some of them were like, "Oh my god, I'm too busy, but I wish I could." And some of them, to my absolute joy and delight, were just like, "Yeah, okay, let's go." And that to me, all that is story sovereignty. It's got nothing to do with like trying to make a statement, like
Right.
trying to make it like, it's like it just has to do about the quality of the storytelling. And so when people enter our space, when they see the five of us on stage and they see us like kind of going for it and being brave and being vulnerable, and they're all like me, right? Where
Right.
they, I don't know, we're just trying to be real, trying to be transparent, not trying to like trick anyone or
Right.
just being open, you know? Yeah. So I think it's embracing femininity, embracing womanhood, and Mo.Etc is also just gonna do what she wants. So when you're with a label, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, there's a lot of not even pressure, just requirements, right?
Mm.
You kind of have to have a certain amount of followers. You kind of have to post a certain amount of times. You have to
Mm.
do talks. You have to appear at things. You have to play gigs, and you get told when you do that.
Mm.
Whether you like it or not. It's kind of you just show up, show up, show up, and in order to keep ticking over and actually making money, sometimes you're representing like alcohol brands or like
Mm.
you're partnering with like products and selling things for people. And it's all funded by like alcohol companies in New Zealand,
Mm.
wineries. Like there's also this kind of underbelly of like, yeah, like the music and alcohol industry are like very good friends. Yeah. And so Mo.Etc doesn't have to do any of that. And it's wonderful, truly.
You know the etc. part of your name. I mean, why? Why? Like, I love it. At first, I was like,
You're like, why?
longest
Why did
time
you do that?
once I saw that album drop, and I was just like so curious about the etc. part.
Yeah.
I got the Mo,
Yeah.
but I was just like, oh, I just want to know what does that mean? Is it like there is more to come, where it's just like, hey, whatever happens, happens. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, I was buzzing out, like, oh, this is so cool. It's such a dope name. I need to know.
Well, next time somebody asks me that, that's what I'm gonna say. What you just said, that's what I'm gonna tell them the answer is because I love that. What's to come,
Do you know,
dot,
like,
dot, dot. But
yeah,
it's yeah, I got it from before we had the QR code. So
yes,
before we had the QR code, you had to write your name on a little, like, notebook or whatever they had
right,
at a store or a cafe or whatever, and I
okay,
would write Mo.Et something, like
right,
Mo.Et scribble,
right.
and I always used to look at it and be like, "Whoa, that looks like Mo.Etc, Mo.Etc." Like, I was like, "That has a ring to it." So it's kind of because of my lazy handwriting.
Oh,
And
you
so it
can't
all
tell that
kind of
story. Don't tell that story.
no, I'm not gonna tell that story. I'm gonna say because I kind of it's like what's to come, you know?
Tell that story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
totally.
that's okay. I like that. And then I guess where does your in general, because obviously you are a writer, you write music, but then you're also a playwright. So where does your inspiration come from? Like, is it something where you have to go away, like a getaway or a staycation, and really kind of dig deep to be in a certain kind of mindset and do you know, or is it are you someone that can just be like an apple? Ooh, got it. And then you just, like
I wish. I wish I was like that. I mean, yeah, I think reading and like reading, seeing the world, doing that all that sort of stuff. A good deadline
Mm,
really helps me with writing something creative. So say if there's like an event and then like I've got to get something together. There's a theatre company here called Tawata.
mm,
They're based in Rotorua right now, but it's run by Hone Koka and Media George. Two very important people in my life, particularly with theatre
mm,
writing. And they have all sorts of platforms in order to encourage writers to, I don't know, share their story or kind of share their point of view. And so they have a festival called Kia Mo, and then a part of that, there's like a writers' festival inside. And so they'll invite artists to write things,
mm,
monologue, whatever they want to show, a monologue, a scene, half a play, or a whole play. They'll provide actors to read it for you and like I'd been in a lot of their theatre shows that they were doing at the time, and one time they just like, "What do you want to write? What do you want to write, Mo? Like, what's in if we were to give you a whole bunch of actors and some space to write something, what do you want to write? What would that look like?" I came up with I had this play Ships. Oh man, oh man, oh here we go. Okay, I wrote this play called Ships, and it's pretty embarrassing, very cringe, but I need to kill the part of me that cringes.
yes, yes.
Um, just a very earnest attempt at like serious theatre, um, but I'm like 21 or whatever.
Mm,
And then I was invited. I made ships through that kind of partnership, and then the next year I made versions of Allah, which I so desperately want to do again. I think I want
mm,
to do it again. Yeah, but the inspiration is like it is to us. I had to have a really clear intention of why I want to write it.
mm,
Ships was like, why did I write ships? Um, I had heard a quote. Quotes and memes are like sometimes they're very like little, but provide so much fuel
mm,
to kind of um, you know, fuel something.
mm.
But ships, there was a quote that was like, the difference between a boat and a ship is that a ship can carry a boat, but a boat can't carry a ship. And I kind of like likened it to like just people.
Mm.
Sometimes people, I don't know, maybe there was something in my life that I wanted to like low key just like call people out. Um, but sometimes, yeah, like sometimes there are people who like are ships and there are people who are like boats who don't have the capacity to take people on.
Right. Yeah, I
Oh
got
my
you.
gosh, it was
I got
so
you.
emo.
I
It was
got
so emo.
you.
Um, but versions of Allah was like, uh, I really wanted to like interrogate Christianity in the way that the way that I was brought up. I wanted to like make it more valid and I wanted to make it real, but I needed to convince myself. And
Right.
so I think the premise was I created these 5 characters who were named after the Spice Girls, 5 Samoan
360.
girls, 5 Samoan girls all over the world all from different parts of the world. And it was like when they're at their rock bottom, like who do they call on?
Mm,
If not God, who do they call on?
right.
And we all sort of experience them at their rock bottoms. And because I think I needed that at the time. So I think the inspiration comes from a very personal need, and allowing art to heal and um, and make sense for what I need to know at the time. Which, I mean, the more specific you get with what I know is the more specific I get with my own um, thoughts or ideas, the more it resonates with other people. Even though you never think that anyone could ever like would understand, but it's actually like, no, actually I do.
Mm.
Yeah.
2020 Arts Foundation Springboard Award recipient. Moana Ete, woo!
Yay!
I mean, obviously, COVID, what the hell? What has the
Yeah.
journey been like for you? Because I know you get paired up with someone that you look up to, like a role model in the industry. How have
Yeah.
you, how has it been in terms of trying to shift around what's going on with COVID and restrictions and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a funny time to get that award, eh? It was like, "Yay, here you go, all this resource, and here's a friend that you get to make
Right.
and wait," you know? Um, I mean, the incredible thing, so the Arts Foundation is like, basically, they're an organization that makes sure that know a whole database of rich people
Right.
who desire to give their money to artists.
Oh.
And so
I'm nervous
it
now.
exists. It exists. It exists. Um, they do want to give their money out, and they just believe that arts is like super important in New Zealand.
Mm.
And so they give people awards, and this is kind of their like first time having like because they usually award established artists,
Mm.
but in 2020 it was the first time awarding younger artists, kind of early to mid career.
Mm.
It was such an honor. It was so awesome. And like they get like hundreds and hundreds of nominations. My friend Rose nominated me, Rose Kirkup, shout out to Rose Kirkup. And she yeah, and her application impressed the panel, and the panel were like, absolutely. So you're one of six. I was one of six. And yeah, really awesome. And then I became friends with like all the other recipients as well, which I was really happy with. Getting to know other minds. And they throw these bougie parties. Oh my gosh. So they give you a bunch of money. They give you a mentor. My mentor was Nikki Caro,
Right.
who at the time had made Mulan, and she was
Oh
in
my
limbo with how it was going to be like premiered.
oh
So
my God.
she's in lockdown in LA, and yeah, everything was just in the air. And so I really felt for her at that time. Yeah, that unknown. And she was all locked down, she couldn't work, and I was here in New Zealand, and our numbers were still chill, you know? But it was, like, really rampant in LA. It was amazing to work with her, and she was so generous with her time, and, read everything that I sent her, and that was like I was like, "I didn't know you'll actually read it." And not only did she read it, she printed it out, and she had, like, all these notes, like, written all over it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she actually read it." But, it was awesome because she sent script after script all the time, every single day. She was just like a real pro at just going like, "No, no, 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 but this," you
Right, right.
know? And of a whole page, she picked the one line. She was like, "That's it. That's the money one. So if you can keep it in that realm, that's what's gonna, make the script fly." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, cool,
Oh,
cool, cool." At least there was a line that
right.
worked.
Give me something, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
Yeah.
think sometimes when you live in a small place and you have like a tight group of friends and you all talk a certain way,
Mm.
somehow you think, for an outside person, it looks like a different language, written down. And so it was nice to have someone be like, I have no idea what this means, and not in a good way. I don't get this personal joke, and I don't, like, and I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Man, that's buzzy. You are also the creative director of a production company. Say it right, Rosa. Ohokomo.
Yeah, you got it.
Did I say it right?
Okomo. Yeah.
Tell us about that, sis, because there is a project, all of the above. Can you
Yes.
speak about your production company and then just the project? Tell us a little bit about that. Oh, if you're allowed
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I am, because I'm the boss. No. Um, oh my gosh. Yeah, so Ohokomo was established in like 2016, and it truly is like a creative brand,
Mm,
my creative brand, and every time you're in a festival, every time you put applications to CNZ or whatever, it's just easier to have like a group name as opposed to like Moana
mm,
Ete's application. But I'll contract people on to work with me.
mm.
So technically it's just like my pseudonym, but once I receive funding, then I can work with a whole bunch of people that I want to work with for whatever project, whatever it is at the time. So all of the above was a script that I had written, and my intention was to invite artists on to kind of jam around and then create new scenes. So it was like half written, and then in rehearsal process, these artists would devise with me, and then we'd kind of put together this like theatre film hybrid. So the intention was to create film as well,
Right.
um, but the film was in the context of a theatre experience. So there are theatre companies like National Theatre in London, and like it's people do it. I'm not like reinventing the wheel or anything. However, um, how they do it is like for years and years, it's like you have the middle camera, and then you might have a tracking camera, and then like it's all from the experience of like this is the audience here, and then like you're all sitting in the audience.
Right.
So for me, all of the above was like bringing the camera into the theater experience. So it wasn't from an audience perspective, though I was like getting right into actors' faces. But then
Right.
the theater audience who were there actually live are actually watching me maneuver a
Wow.
camera in front of the actors.
It's
And so I'm
buzzy.
just testing, yeah, it's super buzzy. And so that's what I'm testing.
Mm,
Because I'm like, is this valid as a theater thing? Asking audience, they're like, honestly, we did a couple of tests, and through that we did put together a film of sorts, um, called All of the Above. And yeah, asking audience afterwards what they thought, they're like, it's super fascinating, like
mm,
being in the film world and like watching me try to get the shots that I want from my actors, and like it's something that not everyone is privy to. We see it because we work in it, like as actors and as directors. We know how it all works, but to be able to share that with an audience is super exciting for me. And the whole the whole thing with all of the above is, yeah, again, challenging who is producing what, and with what purpose, what intention, and what agenda. How we like kind of discussing how brown people have been represented in screen and film.
mm.
There are like scenes of I had these characters of like young kids or like university students, like first year uni students having to have an assignment where they had to like write, like kind of come up with. So there's a scene. So there's like a. So there's okay. I'll explain it from the top. So there's like. So there's a scene in the play that I wrote. It's like first year students at uni, brown. It's a
Right.
brown class, and their teacher asked them to. The assignment is to present back to the class 3 representations of brown people on screen and film.
Mm.
So they could kind of create scenes that they've already seen and then show it back to the class. And they've let this group have left it to the last minute. They need something really easy that they can put together because the presentation's the next day. And they're like, but this is just something easy. Let's just do gangs, And so they come back and they show and then they present their scene, which is like gangs. And then when they present back, that like kind of sparks conversation in their thing. So yeah, super fun stuff like that. Yeah.
Sounds exciting. I'm like, as you're speaking, I'm like, okay, yes, I see that. I see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, how has motherhood changed you, and how are you able to just juggle your time between, doing the writing and projects and things like that?
I have a real I have a real solid spiritual practice of meditation
Mm,
and like just taking that time. Prayer, meditating for some reason has brought me back to prayer,
mm,
you know, in a very not definitely not in the way that I was doing it growing up.
mm,
Um just but certainly has an air of it of just like um just humbly asking, you know.
mm,
And so having that, yeah, it's like there are days that being a mum, like, feels impossible. It's like, how am I gonna achieve all these things in one day? All these things that I need to do, and then do that, and then do that, but, yo, it's been so humbling and taught me a lot about myself. My son, man, he teaches me so much about myself. Like, all his wieners, I'm like, "Oh my god, where did you get that from?" But, like, it's, like, me.
You're like, surely it's not me.
Just that thing of, like, when his brakes go on. Like, he's
Yeah,
not moving. He's not gonna
yeah,
do anything he doesn't wanna do.
yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this kid," but he's,
It's
like,
like
gotten it
only
from
you.
me. I know, but he's gotten it from me, and
Yeah,
because I can see it, I can appreciate it for what it is,
right,
which is just a boundary,
right.
and to, respect it,
Mm,
you know? I think a lot of times in it, I felt like I was like, "Oh, I have a boundary," like, "Do it anyway. Do it," you know? Which is, like, potentially very damaging.
mm,
Yeah, but motherhood has taught me so much about myself. It's made me get on top of my spirituality and my mental health because I can't be an effective mother if I'm not present, if
mm,
I'm not enjoying it,
mm,
and if I'm not calm and just like at peace and just trust that I know better. And so meditating and prayer,
mm.
um, it's just like remember it's going to be okay. Remember to just breathe.
Yes, remember to just breathe.
Yeah,
Do you have any book recommendations? I know you mentioned earlier you've got some book recommendations. You are a reader.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Throw it out there. What do you have?
Yeah, I've got a little stack of books. I just grabbed whatever was on my bookcase. Um, I am a bit of a reader. One that I read most recently was I gave it back, but Dennis Rodman's "Bad as I Want to Be."
Oh, you
I
read? I
love
haven't read
I
that.
love biographies. They're
Yeah.
cool, man. He's awesome.
Mm,
I mean, like, because if you've seen Last Dance, it's like a nice kind of little like extra insight from, like, Dennis Rodman's perspective. I didn't realize, like, just how different he was, and,
mm,
like, it just resonated with me, and he was just, like, going for it, like, dyeing his hair all those crazy colors
right.
and, like yeah, anyways, if you're into the NBA, I think that's a really good one. I have here Neil deGrasse Tyson, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry.
Okay.
He also has another book that he did, which was like people wrote him letters. I love
Mm,
that one. Actually, I think I actually prefer that one actually. They write him letters and he writes back responses,
wow.
which is super fun. This is my guilty pleasure writer, Leanne Moriarty. So she did like Big Little Lies
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
and like Nine Perfect Strangers. And this one, I haven't read this one yet, but it's the last anniversary. So I don't know. I'll give this one a go. She is a writer that makes me believe that I could write novels.
Right.
Like it kind of like, yeah, it's if you've got, yeah, I don't know what it is
Mm,
because she describes little things that people do, like they're little like I don't know. I just think that these little subtleties that she explains so well, you're like, oh, I know what that is. This is the one that I was talking about. So this is very chuggy of me, by the way, but Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic. And so this is kind of like a staple because she kind of just like okes you and tells you like, just do it. Just do it. Write your own goddamn permission slip. Hurry up and do it. But if you just kind of flip through the pages and read any page, she'll motivate you to stay on your path, keep being creative. Yeah, creative living beyond fear, especially if you're like scared of sharing your art.
Right.
And what I appreciate about this is not just about writing because she's a writer, it's about like music or like cooking or like, whatever you deem creativity to be. Ice skating, I don't know, expression. This one I haven't actually read yet, but do you know about like Maramataka and like the moon phases and how they're like every single moon phase kind of has like instructions on how to be in that time? So like if your kids are going nuts, it's like, oh, it's because the moon's in fetal. Yeah. So
I'm gonna look up all these books
yes,
after. Don't you
yes.
worry.
So this is a thesis
Mm,
by Wiremu Pawhai, and he kind of breaks it all down. So he
mm.
talks about all the phases of the moon. So this is super new. So I really look forward to looking into that. A Te Whānau Apanui. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because there's like Instagram pages, people always share like, oh, the moon's at this phase, guys. So that means take care of yourself, self-care, go get your nails done. Um, this is an essayist, and he's written a little book. And this is a friend of mine. His name's Daniel Kelly, and he hasn't even put his own name on his own book. But I bought this off of him. It's self-published, but this is like he and a couple of mates. I was in a band with him. What were we called? He played bass in a band. I think this was like post Rock West. He played bass in my band, and then he went on to be this incredible like Tudor mime.
Chaperones?
Brilliant think.
Was it the
Yes.
chaperones?
Oh my god, yes.
I did the research.
You did the research. Dan Kelly was from the Chaperones. Brilliant mind, and he's beautiful Pākehā, writer. But for me, this is the closest to like allyship,
Right.
because he speaks about traveling around New Zealand and how he kind of dreams up a future of how Pākehā and Māori could well, really, how Pākehā could be better, actually, truly. All of the everything that he explains is like how Pākehā can understand better about indigeneity, about this place. And that's always been his stance, and that's always been his never in this book does it feel like he's making excuses for himself as a privileged white boy.
Right.
And always in this book, there's like a longing, there's like a feeling of like how can we do better as Pākehā? How can we receive this land better as Pākehā? Yeah, it's amazing. Incredibly. This is, and what else? There's other stuff that I want to say. Yeah, I don't know, heaps and heaps of books. But I've been watching this and taking on everyone out. Like, I've been watching Reads with Rosa, and I just have so many books that I want to read now.
Do you think you'll ever write a book, or maybe a book of poetry, or naturally you would think after all the script writing and all the songs that you've written, you don't want to dabble in like maybe a novel or a picture book or poetry? No?
Yeah,
Yes?
I think so. I think so. Maybe when I'm older, when I
Let
get
us know.
time. I think so, absolutely. How about you?
Oh yeah, nah. Like, I didn't, man.
Please.
I didn't even know. I can't write.
Have you read Will? Have you read Will?
I listened to it.
Oh, okay, cool. I want to do that too.
I listened to
All
it.
good?
I just think you gotta listen to it.
Okay,
Just
great.
because he reads it. He's the one telling the story, and I feel like like you, I love reading, I love memoirs. I love reading stories, the life journey of someone. And I just think even more better when they're telling the story via audio. If people get sick of me, I'm sure, talking about how much I love audiobooks and how I love memoirs, because it's just the whole nother level of connection, man. I tell you.
Oh my gosh. But I watched his episodes of
Mm,
him writing it.
yeah.
Do you watch it on YouTube?
I have to tell you this. I don't
Yep.
really follow him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I
You don't
don't
have
really,
to.
I haven't watched any of that. I didn't.
Yep.
How did I find out he was writing a book? Think I saw it uh some bookshops that I follow, and I was like, oh my god, he's writing a book. How cool is it? I definitely want to listen to this on a reader. But I don't really sadly, I mean, I must be the only one. I don't really like follow him or um yeah, but it's a must read, a must listen. I learned so much from that book. It was so, man, it was really a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's done episodes of him writing it, like, behind the
Mm,
scenes, and I'm like, "How much," and he shares a lot of what it is, and I'm like, "How can
yeah,
he share more than what was in these episodes?" But so I wonder if, like, he has shared more than what was in those episodes because it was a lot. So
yeah, man. It's real. No, I won't talk about it. Once I start, people are gonna be like, you gave the story away.
oh, okay, okay, okay.
All I'm going to say is must read, must listen. Listen if you can, or listen and read. But it's just kind of, there's some mind-blowing stuff in there, man.
And
Um,
what are you reading now?
I actually just finished. Um, I just finished listening to the N word. Like, it was recommended by one of my guests, like
Yeah.
way earlier in the episode, in the podcast. And I had kind of like had it there on my Audible for a while. I was just kind of sitting there. So I've just finished reading that. I'm one of those people that gets super annoyed when, you know, our Samoan people like use the N word, like when our Pacific Islanders use the N word. Like, I get super annoyed. I see people tweet
Yeah,
about
that's
that,
fair.
and it just
Yeah,
pisses
that's
me off.
fair. Yeah,
So reading that
totally.
it was deep. It was a good book, good recommendation. Right now I've got loads in my in my phone, but I don't know what I'm reading next, sadly. So
Yeah.
yeah, but when we think about where to for Moana, where to for you next, well, future aspirations, goals, dreams, what's going on? What's the etc. part?
Yeah, yeah, good question. Like how you did that. Heading into summer, it's gonna be music, and so it's gonna be about doing shows and stuff,
Wow.
summer shows. Um, and beyond that, I wanna do all of the above again.
Mm,
So what I made and put together, I just adore, but I wanna do it again. Um, and so that's kind of on the cards. But I also, like, I am an actor, and I am a contractor. So jumping on other people's stuff is always like a possibility too. And it's always just like a awesome treat as well. And also super privileged to be in a position to, like, it's one thing to say no to things you don't want to do, but it's also like it's another thing to say no to things that you actually do want to do,
mm,
just through like scheduling or
right.
so like um kind of coming to that point in it. But I think the biggest dream is always creative freedom. Like, freedom is always like the thing that I meditate on. Creative freedom, spiritual
Mm.
freedom, um, financial freedom, romantic freedom. Just all the freedoms.
Is that cueing the violin now? Is that what you're trying to say? We cue the violin at this point of the episode? We can.
Oh hell.
Um,
Any type of freedom. I don't know. I feel like that's the goal. Um,
nice.
that's the that's the thing that I ultimately want to come back to, and that's my privilege, and that's my thing that I want to I feel like freedom is something that we take for granted, but it's
Right.
definitely the thing that I always aim for. And so that, you know, when people see me do my thing, they're like, "Whoa, she gets," you know, that feeling of like, "Wow, she's doing anything she wants,"
Right.
you know?
It's doing you, doing,
Yeah.
you know, it's all about, yeah, like you said, the freedom, peace of mind, and
Yeah.
part of that is just like, well-being and energy. Where are you putting your energy? Not everyone deserves your energy, to be honest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In this day and age, people
Yeah,
always
true.
like, so I think
Truth. Yeah.
just that whole, that's all part of it. So I just wanted to, we're at the part of our show. Man, I feel like we could just yarn forever.
I know, hard.
But I know it's getting late there. So I just, it is such an honor to have you
Aw.
come on the show.
It's my
We
privilege.
decided to do this within the span of what, 5 days or something, real quick, real quick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I appreciate you, sis.
Same.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the etc. I'm not going to stop. I'm not even going to shut up about it. It's every time I'll be like, what's the
That's
etc.
my story now.
So
It's in my bio. I'm gonna put it in my bio.
I
I'll
just look
credit
forward,
you.
just to seeing you grow some more, and just seeing where the music journey takes you, but even shows and things that you've got coming up. And I just hope that one day I'll be in New Zealand and I'll be able to catch a show, hopefully, when all this whole COVID situation is done. But yeah, I appreciate you so much, and I know you've given me a lot of feedback of things that have resonated with you. Just
Yes, I love this podcast. I love it so much. I'm so
so,
happy that you reached out. It's such a great resource. And
yeah,
this kind of long form conversation is something that we don't really get to see with our peoples, particularly. We're always trying to like chop and change it and like reduce it as much as we can. But I think it's so important just to tala noa, you know,
yeah,
and like, you know, I don't know. Everything that you said for me, I wish it all upon you too, sis. Super proud of you and like all the people that you're working with too, at the school, touching lives. Look at us go.
get us
Yeah,
go.
I
Um,
reckon.
yeah, so for as a creative, as we wrap this up, what are some words of advice, or even just some motivation that you have for other people in the creative field, like whether it's through music or the arts or theater? Drop the gems, sis. Drop some more gems.
I think when you engage with the arts, the conversation always quickly goes to money. We can get more money, how you get money, what you're doing when you get money, how much you're getting paid, and like a lot. I mean, I would just encourage people to, and especially when your family are like, "Are you getting paid for that?" I would really encourage artists to understand that money is a vehicle to get you somewhere you want to go, but always remember that you can walk there.
Mm,
So if it's not there, you can always walk. It's going to take you a little bit longer, but you're going to be so much stronger and so much fitter when you get there. And yeah, it's I would just say that this creativity is accessible to everyone. It's not just talented people or like gifted people, people with a calling. It's accessible to everyone in little ways. It can be how you dress your kids, how you
mm,
cook, how you make a sandwich. Every single thing that we do in our lives is creative. If we decide to make something beautiful just for the sake of making it beautiful, making something smell beautiful or taste beautiful or look beautiful, that's creativity. Making the bed, cleaning the house, gardening.
mm,
So it's not this exclusive elite thing that only a few people have. Every single person has it. And if you want it, just go for it,
mm,
expose it, and share it. Or if you don't want to share it, that's also very valid. I also know that sometimes being private and keeping it for yourself is valid too. You don't always have to share things if
mm.
it makes you uncomfortable, because it is so personal. But yeah, It's just keep it. Everyone can do it. Absolutely, everyone can do it. And write your own permission slip. You have a permission slip. Find someone else to sign your permission slip.
Yeah.
If you can't do it yourself,
Yeah.
find that friend who will sign your permission slip and be like, sis, of course, sew your own clothes. Do that thing that you've always wanted to do. Find that person if it's not yourself. And have fun, follow joy, follow bliss. And within that is its own spirituality and practice and prayer and stillness. Within bliss and desire, it's not a scary, threatening thing. So long as you don't hurt people, you are on the money. But yeah, everyone has access to it.